Welcome to Clever Title Pending with your host, Brian K. Morris, independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, award-winning playwright, and former mortician's assistant. Don't send him title recommendations because Brian knows exactly what he's doing. So just sit down and look pretty as Brian K. Morris scrolls through your comments and plays with his mouse. Join him on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, for Evening Pandemonium and Moonlight Madness.
This is so slick. I gotta unmute myself. Anyway, welcome to another tightly produced episode of Clever Title Pending. I'm Brian K. Morris, and we hope you're having a great evening here, August 25th, 2020. And we've got a really cool guest tonight, Mr. Jason J. Nugent, who is an indie author and a very talented one at that, one who is on his way up, and he is also a USA Today best-selling author, and that's just the start of his climb to glory here. Plus, let's see if I can go to his official bio here. Let's see. Yes, he also has skated with Tony Hawk, had a babysitter with a serial killer brother, and is followed by rapper Chuck D on Twitter. If that isn't qualification enough for this show, I don't know what the heck is. But anyway, whether you're watching us live or on the reruns, thank you for your attention. We appreciate it. Whether you're watching on the Rising Tide page or Geek Insider or Indie Vent, we welcome you. Please share this with your friends. Please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Because it helps us in a lot of ways. And the show is brought to you by geekinsider.com and Rising Tide Publications. Let's bring the man in now, and I will remember to unmute your microphone this time. And I want to welcome Jason Nugent to the show. Jason, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for allowing yourself to be had. Jason and I are old friends. We've been doing the circuit, through the Midwest together quite a few times. And last September, November was it? You had actually made it onto the USA Today bestseller list?
September, yeah.
September, I thought so. Yeah, because I was mercilessly hounding him during Saluki Con. It's Jason Nugent, and he's still talking to me, so that speaks well for him. So anyway, Jason, let's shine the spotlight on you, sir, and tell everybody who you are, and give us some background and a little hint on where to find you.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for the congratulations out there. I appreciate it, everybody. I'll give you a nice rundown of who I am. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, so I still follow my Cleveland sports fans, so don't hold it against me that I'm a Browns fan. I moved to Southern Illinois back in the middle of my junior year of high school. I lived down here. I went to school at SIU, work here. My family's all around here, my wife and my son. And then I've been writing for, gosh, I don't know how many years, maybe 7, 8 years, something like that. And I write primarily fantasy and science fiction. I just posted a graphic of this the other day, maybe 10 novels out and a short story collection. I had 2 short story collections. I combined them together. And so I've got 2 trilogies, one that's co-written, one that's a Portal Fantasy trilogy. Then I've got a young adult sci-fi trilogy. Then I've got a fantasy series that I'm working on currently. I'm also doing another co-written fantasy series with another author. And then I've got another series I'm getting ready to kick off later this year. So I'm writing a lot. And as Brian mentioned, I hit the USA Today bestseller list last September.
You wish.
I know. Last September, as part of a multi-author box set. And my contribution to it was a novella to my fantasy series, which you can actually get for free if you sign up for my newsletter.
Excellent. And where can we sign up for that newsletter? On your webpage?
Yes, if you go to jasonjnugent.com, it's scrolling right there at the bottom. It'll be one of the first things you see at the top of the page. Just
Always hang up right there. We
click
go.
on it.
That's right there.
Yeah, scroll down just a bit, and you'll see where it says to sign up, and just go there, fill it out. And I send out emails on the 15th and 30th of every month, and just kind of give an update of what's going on with me. Usually I try to put out specials from other authors, like freebies or discounts and things like that. So sign up, and you can find out what's going on with me every month.
There we go. Excellent. Very, very cool. Now, first of all, we want to say hello to everybody that is showing up in the chat room here, and we'll be flashing their statements across the screen as they talk to each other and to us. And as soon as we get some questions, we will pepper you with them. Now, what made you want to become a writer, Jason?
That's a great question. So back in high school, I would do some drawing, and I wrote some angsty poetry, as every teen that goes through some issues does. And I kind of liked it, and I got into college, and that first English class you take, and it's like, what did you do this summer? And you have to write a paper on it. So I did that, but I wrote it in the voice of my friend whose girlfriend broke up with him, like right at high school graduation. So his summer was all kind of, despair, and it was kind of sadness. And so I wrote my awesome summer because it was great, but through his eyes, so you got to see about his friend Jason and what I was doing. And, but it had that darker tones to it. And I loved it. I just loved that, being able to get into that voice, and, but I didn't pick it up from there. I kind of let it go. I went to school for history. I have my 2 degrees are in medieval history, so I kind of focused on that, and I kind of went away from the creative writing until many years later at my old job. I had a friend, and she just kept encouraging me to write, because I was like, I want to write a book sometime. And so finally, Nanowrimo came around, and I gave it a shot and failed. And then I went at it again the next year and failed. Then I finally did a little bit of planning and finally succeeded. And when I did, I was like, I love this. I'm going to keep doing this, And so I've kind of kept writing ever since.
Now, you mentioned NaNoWriMo, which for the civilians is National Novel Writing Month, where and I did last year, and I came up with the first draft for my first fantasy romance novel that I'll be working on later this year. But for those of you, we do encourage it, because it's a great way to get a first draft done. 50,000 words in 30 days, and all kinds of support. Now, you mentioned failing that one time in NaNoWriMo. How would you say that you failed, and have you participated in NaNoWriMo since?
Yeah, so the first 2 years I failed. I just didn't plan. I had an idea in my head, but I couldn't pull out a 50,000 word novel out of that. I got to maybe 15,000, and I just got stumped, and I couldn't keep going. The next year, it was kind of the same thing. And then finally, when I finally won it, I put a little bit of thought into the research ahead of time. I put a little bit of ideas, time into it in October, because you can't write anything until November 1st. And so throughout October, I kind of did a little research, kind of had a little planning with myself, just to kind of get a little bit of an outline, because I didn't really do outlines then. And then once it hit, like, I just got into the story. I got so engrossed in the story, and I just kept going, and I crushed it. And then, so I've won, and so you mentioned NaNoWriMo, if I've won it since then. I've won it maybe 5 times, and I think almost every one of those novels I've published.
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, are you primarily self-published, or now I know the answer, but are you mostly self-published, or are you more what we'll call traditionally published? And which do you prefer?
Yeah, sure. So I am indie published, self-published. All of my novels are that up to this point. I have one out on submission with a small press, so we'll see if that happens. I do have a couple of short stories that were published by publishers, but all of my novels are by myself.
Okay, very cool. And along the way here, I don't know if you've been looking at the screen, Jason, but Carl Witzman says congratulations and congratulations from Cindy Kip, who we're going to be talking about. Cindy writes a lot of what game lit, which is
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like what we
Yeah,
were
yeah,
discussing
yeah.
before the show started. And Andrew Russell Burkett says, "Wow, that's an incredible amount of writing material. Super cool."
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, my people know quality when they see it. I tell you. And Bill Sarton, I'm glad you're here. Bill asks, "What books were your favorite growing up?"
Well, so I haven't, and I have this list of fantasy and sci-fi books. I also have 4 other novels under a different name. So there's that too to add to the numbers. But to get to Bill's question, um, I was a big fan of Stephen King growing up. The Shining was and still is one of my favorite books. I loved The Stand. The idea of good versus evil. I saw that in Star Wars with Luke and Vader. You had this clear good and evil, and I saw that in that book as well. And so those definitely just drew me in. And my mom was a huge Stephen King fan. Always had his books around. The first novel I ever read for my own enjoyment was Pet Sematary. I was like maybe 13 or 14, and that's what did it.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool. Now, what were some of your who were some of your influences growing up as writers and creators?
Um, you know, I didn't read a lot growing up. I read a lot of comics. Yeah, Batman and the Detective Comics were some of my favorites. Judge Dredd was always one of my favorites. Yeah,
I am the law. Yes.
exactly. Spider-Man. I read a lot of that. Um, you know, I didn't read a lot of fantasy. I didn't read a lot of sci-fi growing up. I definitely read a lot more horror, and and I spent a lot of time skating instead. I was a skateboarder, hence in my bio, I skated with Tony Hawk. So I skated a lot, and with school and skating, I didn't have time to read or write or do anything like that. But once I started making the time for myself, I would read like Ken Follett, The Pillars of the Earth, one of my favorite books. I started getting to Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. John Scalzi, Philip K. Dick, started kind of expanding on a lot of that as I got a little older.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. David Atkins, who's also an author, asks, "How in depth in atmosphere and location do authors get?" Agatha Christie was more character driven, but C.S. Lewis was more atmosphere driven. And you think about somebody like Tolkien or, like, say, Robert E. Howard,
Mm-hmm.
whose works were very atmospheric, and or H.P. Lovecraft, where the atmosphere is almost a guest star in the story itself. How important is atmosphere to you, Jason?
It's a lot to me. If I go back to my young adult sci-fi series, for example, the first book, The Selection, it's set on a human colonized alien world, and I based it off of one of the NASA travel posters that they were doing. And so the floral, it was all red and orange and yellow, and that really came through in the book. And the crazy animals you got to meet, like that atmosphere, I think really lended itself to be this fast-paced action adventure type of book. And then with my fantasy novels, it's kind of set in a Skyrim-like type of world where it's snowy and cold and mountainous, and you get that feel to it. And then with the new co-written one I'm doing, it's kind of the same way. You've got this natural vegetation, and the land really does play a lot into it.
Very cool, very cool. And Nick Tockard, who on Friday nights has his own YouTube channel on medieval fencing. On medieval history, he perks up his ears. What are your works in that field? Asks Nick.
Well, I don't have any academic works in the field, I'll tell you that. I will say my master's thesis was on St. Bridget of Ireland and the Christianization of Ireland during, as because there's a Celtic goddess named Bridget, and then there's this really important Christian saint named Bridget, and kind of the a demonstration of how that worked, with in the country there, and how it Christianized it.
Very cool. Yeah, and if you couldn't get another story out of that, I'm telling you, you're not even trying. You might be able to pay for your college career with it. Yeah. David Atkins asks, how does a book beginning grab you? Is it about starting at the end? Is it starting with shock value, or should a mystery or unknown grab harder? How important? What kind of work do you put? What type of opening do you prefer to have on your work?
I change those up to see which one works better with my readers. Sometimes I have some where it's just kind of like a pow, big action kind of sequence. Like the beginning of my fantasy series, the main character, Lilokin, he's wrestling with a dragon, him and his other dragon slayers. They've got a dragon and they're fighting against it, and you're right into the action, Other books, I go a little subtle into it, and kind of give a few clues of what's going to happen. It kind of depends on the story. I don't have a set formula for that. I know some people do, but mine will vary depending on the book.
Okay, very cool. Andrew Russell Burkett says, I've written 2 novels for NaNoWriMo.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, seriously. It's a fantastic composition. I wouldn't have finished writing a novel without it. I was always better about writing short stories. And, I'm like you, Jason. I tried it about 5 years ago, and for the same reasons, it's like the old saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
Well, I laid the groundwork for failure. I gave up after 3 days. But anyway, we kept the plot from it. So we'll be working on that later this year too. But yeah, it is a great feeling to accomplish that.
Yeah.
And I got the support you get.
I got to the end and I was so excited, and I wanted all these people to read it. Big mistake.
Yeah.
But it was awesome because it also one of the winnings of the year that I won it was that you got 5 free paperback copies from CreateSpace, and so you could actually get one in your hands. And so I did that. And so I kind of learned what it was to create your own books that way, and so I've been able to use that knowledge since then. But it was just all a learning experience, and being able to say I did it. Just like Andrew there. You being able to get to that end and having that push and having that community help you out. Man, there's no way I would have done it. And actually, for several years, I didn't write a novel unless it was NaNoWriMo. I wasn't writing one during like the spring or summer. It was like I just couldn't do it unless it was November for some reason. I don't know.
I get in that habit, but at least you got one out of it, or 5 or so. Yeah. Bill Sarton says NaNoWriMo seems to be the one thing that will not be totally affected by the pandemic, other than author appearances, but it won't keep anyone from writing. That's true.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of us, just kept going. Kept writing. I know you did.
Yeah. So
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on that. Bill, I bringing it up about the pandemic. Back in March, I got furloughed from my job that I've had almost for 20 years. And so, yeah, exactly. And so I all of a sudden found I had a lot of time on my hands. So I treated my days like I would a job. So I'd get up, I'd work out, I'd get ready. I'd write in the morning, take a lunch break, write in the afternoon. And I did that for several months until I got a new job about a month ago. And so my writing time has been cut down. But during that time, I finished 3 novels, and I've started a 4th, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through on that one.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, David Atkins has a good question here. What type of book beginning would be the way you were impressed to start yours? Is starting harder to do than finishing a book for you? I think that second question is more interesting. What's harder for you, the start of a book or figuring out how to finish it?
The end is the hardest. There's been 1 or 2 where I knew what the end was going to be, and I could write to that. there's been several that I had a vague idea of what the end was going to be, and then as I kept going, it's not the end that it ended up being. But I think the end and giving it a good closure, and sometimes I kind of my endings go a little quick, and it's something that I've been growing and working on. But definitely the end is a lot harder than the beginning.
Very cool. Cindy Kep wants to know, what's your favorite movie?
Interstellar is probably one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. Now, does it influence your work to any degree, or is it just your go-to if you need a fun film?
Yeah. It may influence a little bit of the sci-fi that I do, but it's just the whole concept, and just I just have loved that movie. That I used to. Schindler's List was also one of my favorites for, that's one of my top movies as well. The original Star Wars were always one of my favorites, all that kind of fun stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. Rick Bradley says, yes, Robert Jordan, love him. Wheel of Time is one of the best series out there. I
agree, Rick. And you know what? I came across Robert Jordan in a Schnucks, of all places, a grocery store.
Wow.
It was back in my college days, and I hadn't been reading in a while. And I mentioned I hadn't read much, and we were shopping, and I saw this book in the small book section they had, and I was like, that looks interesting. Picked it up, read the back, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. Man, the best thing I could have ever done. And then I just got hooked, and I got in that world, and I just love that world. I got, I was really saddened when he passed away before it was finished. But we were able to. He had so many notes left that his wife was able to get Brandon Sanderson in to finish that, and he in total Brandon Sanderson fashion, he of course added to it because that guy can't write anything short, and then which is great, and then he finished it out, and I loved it, and now I'm super pumped about the Amazon series that's coming out.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I first remember reading him. He did some Conan, the Barbarian pastiches, and I was a little annoyed because like you, he's dropping Conan to write this Wheel of Time. Well, who the hell does he think he is? My God, I'm boycotting him. Now I need to read Wheel of Time. So what do I know? Cindy Kep now asks, what's your biggest pet peeves in books you've read? And it's okay. Go ahead and mention any of mine you want to.
Well, so every book of Brian's. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. They suck. Amazon.com. Anyway.
No. I guess my biggest pet peeve is when they just get boring to me. When you have some great big info dumps, every once in a while you kind of have to have some of that. But when it's page after page after page, and I just want to get past that. Give me something fun. Give me something interesting. Give me some action. Give me something adventurous. Give me something scary. I can do without that. And so if it's starting to put me to sleep, that we need to move on from there.
I get you on that one. Yeah. Now, you mentioned comic books. Rick Bradley would like to know, have you ever wanted to write a comic book?
Yeah, I think that would be cool someday. I don't know how to actually write a comic, but I think it would be really cool to do that sometime.
Well, there are plenty of wonderful books out on the market right now that could inform you, Jason. We'll talk. Always promote. Anyway,
that's right.
Jason's used to my crap. Anyway, Cindy Kep would like to know, what types of stories do you wish there were more of? That's an excellent question.
Wow, that's a tough one.
That's heavy.
Yeah, there is, because there's a lot out there.
Good question, Carl.
Gosh, just probably for me anyway, something that has, I love a lot of action, whether it's in fantasy, whether it's in sci-fi, even with horror, there's action involved, and there's movement, and there's something happening. I like that because it gets my attention. It gets me intrigued. It gets me involved. And then, and I know there's some out there, but just that, I guess for me, that would be my thing. And I big, dense, heavy, thick stories, I'm fairly simple. I don't like those generally, but you know, give me some action. Give me something that's a diversion from everything else, and we're good.
There you go. There you go. Eric Bradley, I'd like to know, what is your writing process? Since planning helped you win NaNoWriMo, are you mainly a planner?
I am now. I used to be, yeah, I used to be full on pantser, man, and that's tough because when you make a change somewhere down the line, um, you don't know where your story threads are going. Sometimes you leave things hanging out there that you didn't realize, and it doesn't make for a complete story. And so, really, this past couple of years, I've really tried to work on my craft more and try to do more planning, do more outlines. That doesn't mean I stick to them 100%, but I find if I at least have put some forethought into what I want to do and have some guardrails, when I do get off track, I kind of know where I want it to go. I can still change it, you know, but at least I've got a path ahead of me, and that helps a lot. And I used to hate outlines. You know, I would never do them. I didn't want anything to do with them. And some people can write just fine without them, but I've found I need a little bit more direction. And if I put some thought into the outline at first, it doesn't take away my creativity. It actually helps it, because then I'm free to write the fun stuff where I have these guardrails to keep going.
Yeah, and don't you find I've found this, you know, I'm like you. I used to be a pantser, but I became an outliner for sure with my first book. But do you find that when you write from your outline, that you kind of a little bit in the back of your mind think, okay, I'm a better writer now than when I made this outline. I'm going to see if I can one up myself. Do you
Yeah.
ever think about doing that?
Yes, in a way. You know, the latest book I'm writing, that lit RPG book, you know, I'm about 3/4 of the way through on the first draft, and went through and I did a outline to begin with, and you know, it's like a 3 or 4 sentences per chapter, so I kind of know what I want to do, how, you know, what are the main points and all of that. And as I've gone, I have changed it some, but I have the old ones there, and you know, I'm like, well, this is what I originally thought, but it's going to be better now because of where we're at. And so I'm going to write this better, and I'll write a new outline for it so that when I go to sit down to write, I don't have to think about so much what I'm going to write as far as like, all right, this needs to happen in this chapter. I've already got it there. I just need to have fun with it and write it. And that makes things go faster. It makes things go easier. And before, yeah, as a pantser, I was always like, that would slow me down. You know, that's no good. But as a reformed pantser, I think it really helps with my productivity and the quality of the work for sure.
Very cool. Andrew Russell Burkett says, I'll likely do nothing with my first one, but am getting the second edited to self-publish now. The habit of writing every day is excellent. Very
Yeah,
good.
I agree. I've fallen out from writing every day just because of work and all of that. But if you can make it as part of your routine, just like if you were doing an exercise routine, if you just set that time aside and just make it happen no matter what, I think that's awesome. You know, keep at it.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And yeah, keep up the good work, Andrew. And he also says, wow, impressive use of your furlough time.
When I had to, it was either that or I'm just going to sit around all day and do nothing. You know, everyone who's a writer, I think, has that dream of becoming a full-time author. You know, and I had this time, and you know, I don't want to regret it later on and say, well, you know, I had all these months off and I didn't bother to write a thing because I was just so bummed or I was so upset or so whatever. I didn't want to have that regret, so I was like, I'm just gonna write. You know, I'm gonna make this happen. And if there's ever a time to try to become a full-time author, this is it. You know.
Yeah, really. And you know, one thing I heard, and I think it's very true. Would you rather pay the price of success, which is work, which is a little bit of sacrifice, or would you like to pay the price of regret of
Mm-hmm.
never trying it out? So, yay!
Yep.
Good, great questions, Andrew.
Yeah.
Seriously. And now from YouTube, David Atkins, to relate to the readers, do you use things in reality you experienced, or do you use things less realistic and more unreal? In Star Trek, certain races, for instance, were not realistic. Do you pull more from your imagination, or do you lay a groundwork based in, say, reality, things that have happened or things that are happening in current events?
Yeah. So there is a lot of reality-based stuff in my work, whether it's sci-fi or fantasy or what have you. All of that stuff does find a way into my work. It may be set on a human colonized alien world, but you're going to have. I like the idea of being able to tie it back into humans and things that we're aware of and things that we know, because it takes you as a reader into that story more. I think you can grasp it a little bit better. I get to create cool creatures, which and when you're trying to explain those in human terms, but not human terms, because the reader, we as people on Earth know what a flying wolf looks like, for example. But if you're on a alien planet, they don't know what wolves are. It's just this type of creature. So try to explain that can be difficult but fun. But that I do put a lot of reality into it, and I do like my fantasy series. It's got a couple layers underneath that are based on reality. I don't know if anyone's picked up on them yet, but that I know they're there.
Very cool. And my buddy Trevor Hawkins from YouTube, glad you're here, Trevor, my talented cover artist. Are there any genres that you would refuse to cross the streams of, so to speak? Is there anything you would never consider writing? Any genres?
No, I would. I'd
Good
probably
man.
give it a shot at it. Any part. My other name that I use, I write horror under that. So I keep that separate because I want. If you're going to find me under my name as Jason J. Nugent, you're going to find stuff that I say it's like PG-13. So if I got a young kid that's picked up one of my books and they see another one out, I want them to be able to pick it up and be fine with it. But if you find it under my other name, it's not. So I like to keep those separate. So I think if I did any other genres beyond that, I probably would use a different name for those too. And it's just to keep that separate, but also like for marketing purposes, you don't want to. Those readers aren't always the same. So if you kind of keep that separate, you're not going to have some cross-pollination that's going to maybe mess up some things.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I'm going to write that dino porn novel one of the days, and I'm going to use David Atkins as my name. Oh, speaking of whom, many books dictate futures. Star Trek had a positive future, while Metro 2033 had a bad end. So would you write a futuristic book with a set future? And like what book? Well, if you do science fiction. Do you tend to do the more optimistic view, a la Gene Roddenberry, or are you more dystopian? Because you mentioned you like Judge Dredd,
right.
which is about as dystopian as it gets.
Yeah. So for my young adult sci-fi trilogy, for example, we'll go there because I've written that and I have that end to it. It is a little bit of a dystopian sort of. I mean, it's got a Hunger Games kind of a Maze Runner vibe to it, but at the end, they do look to a positive future, and that's that was kind of important for me for that series to have that. I'm writing another series now. I'm not actually sure where we're going to end up on the end, with that end of that sci-fi trilogy, but probably more on the hopeful note. Most of my stuff, I think I try to go that route with it. If it's under my other name, it's not.
Okay, yeah. Michaela, we'll see. First of all, let's get Bill started. He wants to know who's your favorite doctor?
Oh man, you're gonna hate me for this, but I've never watched the show.
Mine's Jonas Salk. Anyway, here's your. Just say Peter Cushing, or you're good to go.
Right.
Michaela Jane says, "What made you want to, or what drew you to Gamelit?"
Yeah,
that's an excellent question. Thanks,
yeah,
Michaela.
that is a great question. So, of course, I write fantasy and sci-fi, and I've started to read some of the lit RPG and game lit, and I really kind of loved. I love the idea of being able to do like a fantasy novel, and I don't have to go through this really long explanation of how magic works. It's just you get a spell and it works. And I love that. But I also love that you can take those concepts and mesh it with reality. Like somebody that gets put into a totally immersive game, and then but they still have their memories of the real life back wherever, while they're stuck within this game world, and have to navigate their way through it. And I just love that, and I've played more, not so much tabletop, but more like games like Skyrim and things like that, that just bring you into that world and being able to craft and keep those fantasy elements going. I know there are some sci-fi ones too. There's some horror in the game lit, but I'm kind of more towards the fantasy side of it. But I just think there's so much possibility there, and I think it's a lot of fun to write and a lot of fun to read, and those readers are looking for a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, Cindy Kep, who does a little bit of it herself, says game lit is fun to write. It's like gaming without the wrist damage. I assume you mean dice rolling. I love dice rolling. Let's see, here we go. David Atkins asks, as a sci-fi writer, would you or could you write a book without a human in it? Watership Down, Mouse, and others have done it. And do you see it possible? Well, obviously it's possible because you've got Mouse and Watership Down that have done it. But does your work primarily feature humans, or when you do sci-fi, is it from the point of view of a non-humanoid character?
Not yet. No. Everything that I've written sci-fi is from a human or humanoid character. My first trilogy was I'm doing a co-written sci-fi trilogy with an author named R.J. Batla, and that one has humanoid races in it, and it's kind of told from their point of view as well. I do see that you could have something like that. I know it's probably a lot harder to write, and that's probably why you don't see too many like that, because it's, we as readers relate to things as humans, and it's kind of hard to relate to something like that. But I'm sure it can be done really, really well. But I've not done it yet.
Well, I remember back in my youth, there was a book called, I, Robot by Yando Binder, who was a pseudonym for the two Binder brothers, one of whom wrote a lot of the original Captain Marvel, Shazam guy. And, it was a very, very good novel told from the point of view of a robot being tried for human crimes. So it can be done, David. And he's got another question: whether it is art or writing, you must do it every day. So in both, references and inspiration is needed. Now, where do you find your inspiration? What keeps you going in this? Because this can be a hard road to travel some days.
Yeah, some just things that happen in life, either to me or to others, or maybe I've caught it on the news or something like that will just give me some kind of inspiration, and usually I'll get like this little idea, and it'll rattle around in my head for a while, and it'll be, a week or two. When I'm talking like a novel, it'll be a week or two before I kind of really like, what, I think this is a good idea. I'm going to start doing some, writing some of this down so that I don't forget it. But it's just, things that just randomly happen, or, or events in my life, or things that have been going on. Just, stuff's all around us all the time, and it's up to us to decide how we want to treat it and how we want to express it within ourselves and in our work. And that's the best for me. And those ideas really formulate when I'm in the shower. So just leave that image there for you.
Thank you for sharing. I get pushback when I share stuff like that. Anyway, Cindy Kemp asks from Facebook: do you do creative non-writing things? What do you do when you're not writing? What do you do for fun?
Well, I read. I play a few games on my iPad. That's about it. I don't have much time to do much else. I go to bed pretty early. I get up stupid early, and then I work in between. So I don't really do any other creative non-writing things. All of my creative side tends to go into that. But having another hobby, I think, would be great at some point, but probably not anytime soon.
Yeah, having too much fun writing. I dig that. David Atkins asks, if you know an author is having trouble in getting inspired, do you reach out to them or would you just give encouragement? Now, that's a very, very good question.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
especially now during these times, I know a number of writers who have had bouts of major depression because of
Mhm.
the way the My Sharona Miley Cyrus Peter pandemic's working out. I had one myself a while back. Now, do do you see authors in trouble sometimes? And if so, how do you handle that?
Um, I do sometimes. I would love to reach out to them, and I do. Because one of the things that I absolutely love, whether it's with writers or friends and coworkers, whatever, when I want to help people, I want to see, I want the best for them, no matter what it is, no matter what their inspiration or aspirations are. I want to see them succeed at whatever it is. And if I can help out in any way, whether it's just listening, whether it's just shooting you a text, just shooting you some messages back and forth, I'm all in on that, because I look at it as that's how I would have loved to have been treated, all the time, and I have a lot of people that do, but I want to give that back as much as I can and more if I can, because I think we don't get that enough, and if I can be some kind of encouragement or offer some words, or if you just want to vent, like I think that's a great thing to do, and I'd love to pay it forward as much as I possibly can.
Very cool. It's called Rising Tide, people. Author Michaela Jade has a great statement here from Facebook. Cindy Cap, interesting. I was wondering if it would be difficult because you have to write within the rules of the game. But do you? And I'll throw this to Jason. With Cindy, I'd welcome your response as well. Do you really need to know the rules of any particular game system in order to write uh, some of the characters and concepts that exist within that gaming universe? Is that essential?
Well, sort of. I mean, you need to know what your gaming rules are for your world. You Once you hash that out at the beginning, and that's what I did with mine, is I figured out what my gaming rules were going to be, and so that was everything else had to come off of that. And so whatever your rules are, you keep that in your file or your reference section of your work. That's for you to know so that you can stay on target with it. But if you can do that, and it can be based on, let's say you want to base it on D&D, or you want to base it on, I don't know, Skyrim or something like that, that's great. But you need to know what those rules are and don't change them up as you go along, because then you're going to get in all kinds of trouble. But as long as you know what your game rules are and you adhere to them, you'll be fine.
Very cool. Very cool. Cindy Cap did have an answer to that. She says you do make up the rules of the game and adhere to it, but you can tweak the rules to fit if you stay consistent. Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much
Yeah.
what you were saying. Very
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah.
Now, Trevor Hawkins here had a question from, actually, his question that you answered earlier about what you wouldn't write. He was wondering, were there the streams? What he meant was, would you cross genres in certain combinations like horror romance or steampunk young adult? Are there any that you would not think to do, that you wouldn't really want to do? It's okay to say dino porn. All right, I'll tell you right now, dino porn. No, don't say
You know,
no.
I don't know. If the idea appealed to me, I'd give it a shot. It doesn't hurt. The sci-fi co-written one I'm working on, it originally started as a science fantasy series where we were going to blend science fiction and fantasy together. We kind of stripped out some of the fantasy elements to it. We still have knights, and we have, the name of the land is Avalonia, and the name of their capital is New Camelot, and he quotes Chaucer. So we have some of that stuff in it, but we don't really have fantasy as in magic. But I don't think I'd have any problem mixing some of those kind of genres together.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Rick Bradley asks, any advice for someone writing their first science fiction novel?
Write it. Just write it, man.
Have a good night, everyone. Drive home safely. No, that's seriously, it's a great answer. What else would you say?
Yeah, I mean, just know your worlds. Know what, and it's kind of like with fantasy. With fantasy, you got to know what your magic systems are and what the limitations are and what, how it works. Kind of same way a little bit with science fiction. Just you don't have to be dead on correct with your science in it. I mean, you can if you want to. In mine, I didn't. I did a little bit of research, but I wasn't. It wasn't the key part of it. But it's up to you. How far and how deep, how much you want to get into the science aspects of it. Because some people want hardcore science fiction, some not so much. So it's just whatever your comfort level is with it, and then just get out there and put those words down, man.
There you go. Very cool. Very cool. Now, here's a vital question here from Cindy Kemp. What is your favorite writing snackage?
Oreos.
Holy cats, you win.
Yeah, give me some Oreos, man. Oreos, and I drink a lot of coffee, so there you go. Yeah.
The lubricant upon which the gears of creativity grind, I call it.
I agree.
Oh, very cool. Rick Radley says, one of my favorite tabletop strategy games, Warhammer 40K, oh yeah, is taking submissions in October for short stories. Any advice to make mine stand out?
Wow, that's a tough question, Rick. I won't have to mute you, man. You're giving me too many tough ones here. No, I'm kidding.
Shut the hell up, Rick. No, seriously. No, Rick, I've got to brag on Rick here for just a moment. Rick and I met about not quite a year ago, at a convention in Southeast Illinois with Amy Hale and Kathy Jackson. And he came in with an arm's length full of questions because he wanted to join this rock and roll lifestyle that you and I enjoy. And by the end of it, we had not frightened him off. And in fact, within about 4 months or so, he had his very first published short story.
Nice.
And he's just released his very first horror novel. So,
I did see that. Yeah, right on.
Yeah. So very proud of this young man. So now that I've stalled long enough for you to come up with an answer, I'm glad I'm not answering questions tonight, folks.
I would say, just make it as original as you can. Obviously within their world. But then get some other eyeballs on it. That's what's helped me so much, is to get other writers and readers checking out some stuff before I submit it to somewhere, so that they can spot those shortcomings that I'll miss every time, and they'll see them and like, this isn't working, this doesn't make sense, and a chance to fix it before you send it off. But get some eyeballs on it. Try to make it as true and original to you as it possibly can. And the great thing is, if it doesn't take off for them, you've got yourself another short story and you can use it for something else.
There you go. And the nice thing about self-publishing is I'm almost to the point now, when I send out a manuscript to another publisher, if I'm in love with it enough, I'll just be like, please reject it. I publish this. I'm happy with this.
Yeah.
So let's see. Here we go. Cindy Cap says, most of the many notes from my most recent work were the character classes and game mechanics, but mine was radically different. So the publisher totally made it up. Very cool. And let's see. And go Rick, says Cindy Cap. Oh yeah. And Meredith Logren lives on coffee and goldfish.
Hey, that's not a bad combination either. I usually keep a box of Cheez-Its, and they've got this Colby Jack one, I think it is. Man, love them. I was eating a lot of them over this pandemic. I'd take a break, grab them out of the cupboard. My little Chihuahua would come running along because she thought she'd get a little snack too. And I eat a lot of those. Yeah,
and we are about an hour and a half from a candy factory.
Oh man,
the Albance Candy Factory. That's probably in every Albance gummy bears are probably in every pilot rest stop in the Midwest. And we went to the place where they're made. I got a bag, $8 bag, 5 pounds worth of gummies last week.
Nice.
And or actually 2 weeks ago. I'm glad it's taken me over a week to eat them. But yeah, Snackage is very important, and we're going to be doing some more sprints up and down the stairs now as a result. Um, Now, David Atkins has a bit of a question here, but I'm going to boil it down to our iHeart radio listeners. And yes, we are on iHeart Radio. Thank you, Meredith Walgren. Um, uh, when you make rules in your books, and this can go back to the game lit thing especially. How free do you feel in breaking those rules, or do you give yourself some wiggle room, or do you think they're for the most part pretty much carved in stone?
Um, for me, they're closer to being carved in stone. I mean, if I break that rule later on, then maybe I go back and fix it on the next pass. So early on, it's not broken. If you know what I mean, like you as you're writing it and you're like, oh, this would work out really cool if you could do this, and you make it happen. So then you go back to the early stuff, and when you do your revisions and add it in early, so that you're really not breaking it in the end. You are to yourself because you know what the draft was, but if you fix that later, I think you're good. So, but I definitely try to keep it as close to set in stone as possible, because readers will pick up on that and they will let you know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And inconsistency, you want to catch it before your reader does. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because you'll be kinder. You can hide the evidence. Carlene from YouTube says her favorites are coffee, Coke, the drink. Thank you for specifying, and booze.
And that's good too.
Yeah, there's a reason why writers have this hard drinking stereotype, is because there's something to it.
Yeah.
And I made Rick Bradley blush. Well, it's better than last week when I made Jen Thompson cry. Anyway, no, we were saying nice things about her, and she was crying with joy because she did not realize what an impact that some writers have on others.
Gotcha.
And some people do, which brings up a question. Jason, have you ever been told what kind of impact your work has on others? Do you have any good stories for that?
Yeah, I've had a couple of readers that have told me, how much that they've absolutely enjoyed it and just couldn't get enough of it, and that floors me every time I hear that from somebody, because to think, I wrote this thing, you don't know who's reading it sometimes, and then to come across somebody that has, and then they've kept reading and reading, and they just love it. I was at PennCon the last time I was at PennCon, and I had a reader come up to me. She had come to me the year before, and she had read one of my books, and she found one of my books from my other name, and she was reading it, and she was relating the story to me, how she was in bed reading the book. It was getting late. Her husband was like, you know what, it's time. It's late. We need to go to bed. And she was like, I can't. I got to finish this book. I got to keep reading. And she did. She finished reading the book instead of going to bed. And I was like, I cause marital problems. I love it, But
you homewrecker, you.
But that's such an amazing feeling when you know that somebody has gotten into your books like that, and when they let you know, and that's what keeps you going, because you can get 10 rejections or 10 people that say it's terrible, but you get that one person that says, man, that was awesome, that really spoke to me, or that really I loved it, I can't get enough of it, and that just means the world, man.
Yeah, we're kind of like the opposite of retail, where you can have like 100 really great or average customers, but you get that one a-hole who comes in and ruins your entire week. We have the opposite. One more benefit to writing, and we have an endorsement here from a mutual friend, Jason. Amy Hale says, hello, glad you're interviewing Jason.
Yeah, hey Amy, how you doing?
Amy, love you. Let's see. David Atkins asks, without conventions or other things, how are you trying to market your books? And is social media the only outlet? How do you get others to see your name, book, or website not using social media? They come onto the show, buddy. That's what they do.
You talk to Brian.
That's right. Right, my God.
Advertising. I've been doing a lot of Amazon ads. I've started learning and taking courses on Facebook ads to get that out there. I'll do book promos with various services, kind of BookBub style services. Obviously not as good as BookBub, but those kinds of things. And as just as a secret between me and you, Brian, my book, The Bloodstone, the first book of my fantasy series, is going to actually be free from September 3rd through the 7th. So just between you and I, don't let anyone know.
I promise. It'll be like that secret that I never tell anyone about finding information on how to do this stuff on Google.
Yeah,
because no one goes there.
Yeah. So social media, I do use that, David, and I do advertising. I mean, that's you try to go into various readers groups as well, but don't spam them. Do not spam readers groups. They hate it, and it's just not good, But if you participate as a reader, there comes a time where you'll be able to share some more with that, or people will discover you. But just join groups that are of the interest that you like, that are of your books, and just kind of stay in touch with things. But things like that. But again, advertising, it has been what I've been using.
That's true. Very good. Very good. And Nick Tockard, who is currently writing a role-playing game based on the comic book hybrids, The Sons of Gods, and it's an awesome game. I played it. Do your books have relating RPGs? Asks Nick.
No. I say Skyrim a lot. I spent way too much time playing that game, but it's influenced my fantasy series. It's actually influenced my lit RPG in a way, but it's not, they're not solely based on it or based on other games, but it's maybe that kind of concept, I guess.
Well, Nick, just, after you get done with hybrids, then contact Jason to do his RPGs for him. Okay, see, I'm making connections here. This networking
I love it. I love it.
Actually, people have gotten work because of me. So everyone but me. It's kind of like my outline, my resume writing business. But anyway,
nice.
Yeah. So anyway, we're here to help. David Atkins says, as an author, how do you write something that can change a person's perspective? Should it be a goal for an author, or should it be entertainment only, with inspiration being a possibility? Do you write to inspire? Do you write to entertain, or a combination of either?
I write more for entertainment. I think there's definitely a role for all of that, and it just depends on you as an author, what your main goals are, what your priorities are, what you find as valuable in your writing. If you can write something inspirational, that's awesome. I don't know if I necessarily have. If I have, it really wasn't intentional. But I write. For me, it's more for entertainment, and that's my goal. That doesn't have to be yours, doesn't have to be anyone else's. We all have our different reasons and our different whys of why we're writing, and I just love the process. I love creating those things, and I love being able to get people into these worlds that they never would have seen because I hadn't created them. And I love that part of it.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Now, we've caught up with the questions, but to round out the hour, I've got a few more, of course. Now, we keep mentioning that you are a USA Today best-selling author, and he's laughing because he remembers the way I treated him after the news went out. I've not squeed for anyone else, Jason. I'll have you know that, man. You're the one. I know you are. But what was the book that got you onto the USA Today bestseller list, and how did you become a part of that? I think our listeners would like to hear that.
Yeah. So, okay. I was part of a multi-author sci-fi and fantasy boxed set. There was maybe, 22 or 23 of us. And I came in really late to the game. So there was this group already. The book was the author box set was called Rogue Skies. It was a limited edition box set, and they had requirements. You had to have at least a 30,000 word book, and it had to be sci-fi or fantasy. Any of the subgenres were fine. You had to pull everything together to kind of work towards the goal. So they had somebody in the group, and they had some problems. And somebody that was in the group knew me from previous projects, and I've known her for a while, and she reached out to me, and I think it was in June, and said, "Hey, we have this thing. We have an opening. Would you want to participate in it and be part of this?" This was June, May or June, and the book was coming out in September. So I was like, "Yeah, sure." I had this 7,000 or 8,000 word short story I was using as a reader magnet for my fantasy book, but I thought it really could have been expanded, and there was a lot more to it. So I was like, "Yeah, I can do this, no problem." And so I had to write it, and get it cleaned up, get it edited, and turn it in probably within a month. I had to knock it out pretty fast because they had timelines, and again, me coming in late, they were already doing promotions for it. They were already working on getting pre-orders for it, and then I joined the group, and then we kind of split us up into different parts. Like I was in one of the marketing groups where we had to book all of the promotions and the promo services and things like that. So they trusted me with some of the money, and then I got to book certain ones and for the launch week, and then we had to push to get those pre-orders, because to hit the USA Today bestseller list, you have to do at least 500 pre-orders on Nook or Apple in the U.S. It doesn't matter if it's another country; it has to be the U.S. And then you had to do I don't know, I think it was 3,000 or something like that on Amazon. But for it to even count, if you did that on Amazon but didn't hit your 500, it wasn't going to count. Wow. So we had to really push on that. We did it as a 99-cent pre-order, and you were going to get 20, 24, 25 books as part of this set, and so it released on a Tuesday, and you have all the way into that following Sunday to rack up as many sales as you can. And so we annoyed the crap out of people. We posted it on social media. We had promos going. We worked as a well-oiled machine. We got over the 500 on both Apple and Barnes & Noble, and I think actually maybe even on Kobo too for some reason.
Nice.
And then I think we did over 4,000 of them on Amazon.
Wow.
And so we had to wait because it tallies it up until Sunday, and then you have to wait until Wednesday to find out. So it's like you're on pins and needles, to see if we actually, all the effort and all the work and all the writing and everything we did in it, if it actually panned out. And then the list came out on Wednesday, and we were on it, and it was pretty sweet to see that, man. It was awesome.
That's great. Now, what's the first thing you did when you saw the confirmation? What did you scream? Is there anything you could say on the air?
Yeah, definitely. So that morning, on my way to work, I went to the store and I bought a chocolate cake. So it was either going to be a celebratory cake or it was going to be a consolation cake. Either way, I was having cake, right? So, had it in my office. I shared the office with two other people, and they knew the deal. They knew what was going on, and so we were checking it. And about 11 o'clock that morning, the result 11:30, the results came out, and we had made it. And I jumped up, and I threw my hands in the air and jumped out of my chair. And I think I scared one of the other two because they weren't expecting it at the time. And then I was like, bust out the cake. I was like, we made it, and oh yeah, sorry, Amy. We bust out the cake, and it was cake for everybody, and we printed it out and had it posted up in the office there and highlighted it and everything. It was pretty cool.
That is cool. Now, did you see it online, or did you get a copy? Or did you see it in the actual physical newspaper? And have you framed that newspaper?
No, I didn't actually see it in the newspaper. I saw it online. But actually having a copy of that would have been sweet.
Did you frame your monitor?
Not quite, but you can still go back in there and pull up that day, and you can pull up the PDF that has all the books on it, and I can print that out anytime I want.
And asking for a friend, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you probably have a macro now, it goes straight to that site. And the list. I did get a cake as you suggested. So
Yeah,
she knows good
dang
advice,
it,
right?
Amy. Yeah, I was there when Amy on that day, and I remember looking at it, and I was like dead set that she was gonna have that on her name too, and I hate to hear that.
Yeah. Well, now do you have plans for any sort of similar project coming up that might have that kind of cooperative effort?
So not to that depth. I am co-writing a sci-fi series. I mentioned his name. It's R.J. Botla. He's a fantasy author. He lives in down in Texas, and I've known him for years. And we we've talked for quite a while, and we threw out this idea sometime early last year, I think, of doing a series together. We thought it'd be great. We meshed together really well, and so we kind of threw some ideas together. We did some world building, and then we just kind of let it sit. We both got busy with other things, and then pandemic hit. I had all this time, and I contacted him because I hadn't heard from him in a while, and I was like, "Hey, man, are you still wanting to do this?" And because if he was going to say no, I was ready to just go ahead with it. I had the time, I had the desire, I was really itching to get into it. But then he was all aboard, and so I went ahead and I wrote the first draft, and I wrote the first draft by myself, sent it to him. I was like, dude, this is going to need some work. Let's put your touch to it. Let's get this going. Let's make this happen. And he did. And right now, it's with one. We're working with two editors, and it's with our first editor right now. And then we got a sweet cover done, which I can't show you guys just yet because Ryan and I haven't settled on that. But we've settled on the cover, but we haven't revealed it yet. But it's kind of it's a sci-fi series or trilogy, but it does have some medieval themes, as I mentioned earlier. The first book, it's called The Night of Avalonia. And it follows Lord Diren. He's a knight of the round. And actually, kind of going further with this question, Brian, I have a short story that's tied to this series that I wrote. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Craig Martell from the 20 Books to 50K group. He kind of heads that, and he started his own sci-fi fantasy group, and he's doing a short story anthology called The Expanding Universe. And volume 6 is coming out, and he put out a call for submissions. And I sent him the first 500 words of a short story that was going to be tied to this series we're writing. And I had no idea where the story was going, but he needed first 500 from everybody that wanted to participate. And if you liked it, you moved on. He liked it. And moved on. That meant I had to write the darn thing, because I had no idea what I was doing with the story. So I did. And I got a lot of really good feedback from people like Amy and Scott Moore and several others. I sent it to a lot of people because I knew that this was going to be an awesome opportunity to get a lot of eyes on it. So I had to get as much input as I can to fix it and clean it. And it helped tremendously because I fixed the draft, I sent it in, and Craig loved it. And he signed me on. And actually, I told you earlier, I just got paid the other day for the story. This is the most I've ever been paid for a short story. And that'll be coming out in September. And my story is called Diren, Esquire's Tale. And so it's kind of his time before he becomes a knight. And it actually kind of fits in between chapters 1 and 2 of the book that we're writing. So it fits in perfectly. It's a nice intro to the world that you'd experience with our series. And so that'll be a multi-author anthology in September, and our first book should be coming out in September as well. So hopefully it all comes together, and we sell a lot of both of them.
That would be great. Definitely keep us posted on that, all right?
Yeah.
The sort of thing my Nevermorians do like to hear. Cindy Cap says, out of genres you and I both write in is really competitive with a lot of strong opinions. Do you focus on that competition any, or just deal with your own writing?
I don't worry about any of that competition at all. And actually, I don't. I don't look at other authors in the genres I write as competition, because there's so much room at the table for all of us. If I can help support someone else in the genre, I'm going to do that. Because the more of us that get lifted up, the more of us that can go along with it, and so I don't look at it as competition. I see some success of other authors, and I'm like, man, I really would love to do that. I want to be there, but that is just more motivation, and it's not out of envy or jealousy. It's more of like, I want to be there with you, man. I want to experience what you're experiencing, kind of thing. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Rick Bradley wants to know, has being a USA Today bestseller increased your sales to a noticeable effect? That's an excellent question, Rick.
It is an excellent question, and the short answer to that is no, actually. It really hasn't, that I've seen. It looks great on covers. It opens the door to other things, where people will talk to you now, or people will, even though I'm an indie author, because I can say I'm a USA Today best-selling author, that opens the doors to things that maybe I wouldn't have had before. At conventions and things like that, I can maybe be listed as a guest instead of just as somebody that's, another author there, but it does open up more things than had I not had it. So, maybe if we didn't have COVID and we had more events going on, maybe. But I also, let me throw this out there too, Rick. I haven't really put out much stuff since then either. So this second half of the year, I'll have 2, if not 3 releases coming out. So we'll see if that does then. But since I hit the list last year, I haven't really put out a book since then. So that's probably more to do with it than the USA Today part of it.
Well, Amy Hale also brags on you, says Jason was great support, and furthermore, it's a great story you made. You did an amazing job with it.
Yeah, she was one of my readers on that short story and gave me some valuable feedback. And
He's awesome.
And I love that because Amy and I don't write always the same genres, but I love getting opinions from other authors and other readers that don't read that, because a good story is a good story no matter what it is, right? Yeah. And I want to be able to get those opinions to make my work stronger, and she was a great help for that.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I keep stressing with this circle that we are in. You, me, Amy, Kathy, Jackson, a whole bunch of other good people, is that we are non-competitive, and not just for the fact that like you write science fiction horror, Amy writes romance, Kathy Jackson writes inspirational romance, I write whatever grabs my attention at that given moment. But it's the fact that we do encourage each other, and that's why I love seeing you all get along here, and that they keep saying find your tribe. And once you get that, man, hold on tight, because it will not only lift you up, you'll find yourself doing the same thing to others. And David, I saw you had a couple questions there, but I think the basic answer is write the dang thing. So and I know that Jason's got a limited time on here. And let's see. So we're going to rush through your questions here. Note to self, says Rick Bradley, get a couple short stories written by Jason for my future anthology so I can put USA Today best-selling author on that. Rick, that's a solid idea. And don't forget, Rising Tide Publications is putting out Doc Saga later this year. Hi there, Jason. And doing horror anthologies. Hi, Jason. Anyway, you won't exploit it, damn it, Jason. I will.
That's right.
Use your friends, by God. And hello, Sarah. Mwah, good to see you, hon. Hope you're having a great night. And Eric Hawkins, great artist and writer of the Zombieful World of Oz, boils it all down here. Destroy all competition. There can be only one. And
well,
well, he said it. And Carl, you said something earlier. You're going to end the show on that one. So, and wait a second. Amy Hale says, got to run. I'll rewatch later. Have a great night. Amy, thank you for showing up. We love you, Amy. We do. And she's saying, don't tell anyone. And Cindy Kemp says, what advice would you give to a novice writer?
Great question. I love these tough questions that make me think.
Yeah.
You know,
They do that.
Yeah. Write what is true to you. Write what's what you love. If you get stuck in trying to follow like a current trend or current whatever, you're gonna hate what you're doing. You're not gonna enjoy anything of it, and you're not gonna be successful with yourself. But if you write something that's true to you, true to your style, true to your likes, and true to just who you are, I think you're gonna love what you're doing, and you're gonna keep doing it, whether someone's reading it or not. Give yourself some time to plan. Think about your project, think about the book or the story or whatever it is, and that'll help make it stronger in the end. But above all, just write the darn thing. Just get the words out. You cannot fix anything unless you have it written down. It can be a terrible first draft, and that's perfectly fine because nobody needs to read it but you. But get it out, get those words out, because you've got this idea formulating in your mind. Just get it out, and eventually you can get back to it and fix it and clean it up. I mentioned Nanowrimo, and I've done that five or six times that I've actually won it. It doesn't mean those first drafts were great. But I was able to get it out of my system, give it some time to rest, come back to it in a couple weeks, and then start doing the heavy lifting on it and fixing the things that I needs to fix, and just polishing it, cleaning it up. But just write it. You can't fix anything unless you write it. So just get it out there. Whatever time you have available, you may be super busy. That's great. I get it, but make it a priority. Carve out 15 minutes, a half hour every day if you can, and just stick to that like you would with I mentioned earlier, like a workout plan. Like, this is my time, that's it. But try to be consistent, because even if you only write 10 words, that's 10 more words you had today than you did yesterday. Just keep adding. They will eventually add up, and you'll get to where you want to go.
Beautiful. And now we're going to let Carl. Let's see. Let's check any other things. Let's see. And here we go. Cindy Kep agrees. Rough drafts are supposed to stink. Yeah, and mine do. I will put myself firmly in that category. And now we're going to let Carl Witzman have the third to last voice here. The man with cake always wins. I think you all should get tattoos with that.
I love
because
it. That's awesome.
That's life-changing right there, folks. Thank you, Carl Witzman, for your wisdom there.
That's truth, man. That's truth.
Oh, man. Power in the words there. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters. Power in the words.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, Jason, I know I've kept you a little longer than we said, but I appreciate your being here, man.
Yeah,
it's good catching up with you, man. And we got to have you back.
It's been a while. Yeah, I'd love to, man. That's no problem at all.
Oh, cool. Then we will do that, sir. We will be talking in the future about that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put something up here. You can sign up for Jason Nugent's newsletter there at jasonjnugent.com, and you can read his awesome bio there. And what we're going to let Jason do now is he's going to close out his part of the show. And Jason, tell everybody where they can find you. Anything else in closing that you think would be interesting? Maybe tell them how they can become Twitter friends with Chuck D. Now, did he contact you, or did he friend you, or did you friend him?
I don't remember who friended who first, but I noted I don't remember how I noticed it, and I was like, what? And so I check it every once in a while just to make sure he's still there, and he is. And actually, the guy that played A Christmas Story, the redheaded bully.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he follows me on Twitter too.
Oh my God!
Scott Farkas was his name in this movie. I can't remember his first name or his real name, but
yeah.
It's kind of funny.
That is weird. Yeah, that's the way I felt. Mine is Juliet Landau.
Nice.
Yeah. She just showed up one day. Julia Landau is following you. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm glad of that. And I'm so glad you were here, Jason. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with everyone, and continued success, my friend. Continued success. Now, I'm going to let you have the spotlight one more time. tell everybody where to find you, how to keep up with you, and
Yeah.
stuff to look out for. Okay, here you go, sir.
Oh, I got full screen. Awesome.
You're
Yeah,
the best.
so just check me out at jasonjnugent.com. You can find me on Facebook at Jason J. Nugent Writes. On Twitter, I'm at Lilokenri, and that's Lailokenri. And Liloken's actually the name of my main character in my fantasy series, but it's a name I've used in gaming for years. Sign up for my newsletter. You'll stay up to date with everything that I've got going on. And speaking of, this Thursday, which is August 27th, it's number one, it's my wife's birthday. Number two, I'm releasing book 3 of my fantasy series. The book is called Bone of the Griffin, Curse of the Draku, book 3. Book 1 is The Bloodstone, and then I mentioned earlier, that will be free on September 3rd through the 7th if you want to pick it up for free. Book 2 is called Dragon's Blood. And I'm kind of working my way through the draft or the outline for book 4. If you sign up for my newsletter, you'll actually get a prequel novella that was part of that Rogue Skies that hit the USA Today bestseller list. You'll get what's called my novella called Curse of the Draku Origins, and you'll get that for free, and you'll be able to read that and get a feel of what the world is like. I've got a fantasy or a science fiction trilogy coming out with I'm co-writing with RJ Batla, and that should be coming out in September. And then with my lit RPG book, probably October, maybe closer to November, the way things are going now. But just follow me, and you'll be able to kind of be updated on when all this stuff comes out. And I'm super happy to be here, and I hope you give my work a shot.
Yeah, definitely. And don't forget, Jason, to put the listings for all that good stuff on Rising Tide and on my page to remind all of our people here. I'll be glad to help you promote that. And again, sir, thank you very much, Jason Nugent. Appreciate your being on here, brother.
Thank you, man. It's good to be here.
All right, thank you. And it's going to happen again soon. So I'm going to take over the screen now because we're going to close this out here. Thank you all for watching. Some program notes. We will have another Nevermind the Furthermore tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central. We'll update you on Cookie's condition. And she's fine. Actually, yeah, she had a, for those of you who know, yesterday we did cancel Nevermind the Furthermore because Cookie pulled a muscle in her rib cage, but she is fine. In fact, she is at work right now, so hopefully doing well. And anyway, next week on Clever Tile Pending, we're going to have illustrator Clayton Merwin, who does interiors for books. He also does covers. So we welcome your questions on what it takes to create a brilliant cover for a book, also his career as the hero maker, all right? And he's just recently done a book for Charles F. Milhouse, part of the Captain Hawkland series that I hope you are picking up right now. So anyway, he'll be on next week on Clever Title Pending. And then this coming Saturday, the 29th at noon Eastern time, there'll be a special Clever Title Pending with my good friend Russell Allen, Russ Explode of XenoneniteTitan.com. He's going to talk about his brand new book about that and merchandising and turning it into a comic book and crowdfunding and all kinds of things. Please join us at noon on Saturday, and please bring your questions. We look forward to having you then. And once again, please check out Jason Nugent, JasonJNugent.com for all things Jason. And again, thank you so much, Jason, for being on the show. You were terrific, and we will do this again. And thank you all for your fantastic questions. And is Jason related to Ted? No. Thank you for asking, though. But anyway, appreciate all of your kind attentions tonight, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Special hello to everybody on iHeartRadio when this drops. Also to YouTube, where it's on my channel and Geek Insider, as well as the Rising Tide page and my profile page on the Book of Faces. And we hope you'll follow this show wherever it goes. And let's see, and be sure to check out our website, risingtide.pub, where you can subscribe to our free monthly newsletter. The next issue will be going out September 1st. And every month I list what's going on with Rising Tide, any place I plan to be, and we'll see if that happens before now in the end of of eternity. Also, guest editorials, occasional book discounts, and special offers, along with motivation, education, and inspiration, and some special secret links. That's how people have been clued into marble racing. I found something new that I'm obsessed with, and so that will be one of our secret links for the September newsletter. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please give this video a like and subscribe to it too, and hit that bell so that ring that bell so you can be alerted to our future appearances. And if you're watching on Facebook, please give the Rising Tide Publications page a like. We've got almost 2,200 people. We love it. Please let everyone know about this broadcast, no matter where you're watching it from. And in closing, thanks again to Jason J. Nugent for his time and his talent. What a wonderful guy. Hope you appreciate him, too. Hope you got something from him. And also, as always, just want to let you know, stay smart, stay safe, wash your damn hands, and never apologize for being awesome. Thank you very much for watching Clever Title Pending, and we'll see you next week with Clayton Merwin. Have a great night, one and all.
Thank you for tuning in to Clever Title Pending, a Rising Tide Publications and Brian K. Morris production. A member of Comic Book Advocating Network and sponsored by GeekInsider.com. Become part of our show with sponsorship and advertising opportunities. For details, contact advertising at geekinsider.com or visit podcast.geekinsider.com. The Geek Insider podcast is available on your favorite app, so please hit the follow button and share it out to your friends, because if you don't, you might have to turn in your geek card.